Hi friends, I'm Kelsey. Thanks for stopping by my channel and welcome to Essentially Booked. All right, so I'm a fairly new booktuber. I almost said bookstagrammer, which I am a bookstagrammer. And I wanted to go through some of my favorite books. I'm not going to do like top 10, although I think I made a stack of 10. But I just want to go through some of my favorite books, and then that will just be this video for this week, just to give you guys more of a sense of what kind of a reader I am. In my booktube newbie video, I did say that I do read really broadly. So like there's not really any horror or thrillers on here because I just haven't found like that book yet that is the book for me that I want to recommend all the time. But I do read a lot of like literary fiction, historical fiction, mystery, romance, but I'm more of like a mass market romance reader. Historical romance is probably my favorite genre, hands down. But yeah, this is kind of an insight into who I am as a reader. If there's any of these that you've read, I would love to know in the comments. And if you aren't already, please like and subscribe to my channel if you like what you're seeing, just to help me and support me as I grow my channel. So let's get started. I am going to start first with a book that I just do not think gets nearly enough attention, and that is A Place for Us. And it is by Fatima Farheen Mirza. This is about a family who has one sibling who's kind of really like broken the family in a way. And it's just a really beautiful book about like what people do for their family and their loved ones. And it is, it's based on an Indian family, and just, gosh, the writing in this book is so beautiful. And it's a really, like, the family comes together for a wedding, and really like not a lot happens in the book necessarily, but it's just so introspective and the writing is just so beautiful. But A Place for Us, it's just an incredible book, and I wish it got way more love than it did. I know a couple of my friends have read it recently on Bookstagram and loved it too. I think Anne Bogle recommended this. This might have been a book club pick for us at one point. I don't remember, but seriously, one of my all-time favorite books is A Place for Us. And then another one that did get a lot of hype is A Gentleman in Moscow. This is actually the only Amor Towles I've read so far, and it was so good that I cannot bring myself to read his other books, even though I own both of them. It's Rules of Civility and The Lincoln Highway. I just love this so much. It reads like a Russian novel. So if you like War and Peace, Anna Karenina, you would really enjoy this, I think. But it is about the Count, who gets kind of put on house arrest in Russia, and just like the encounters he has with people in the hotel is just so wonderful. And it's a hug in a book. I love this book so much, and I just can't get enough of him. But it's like that book that is so perfect I'm scared to read another work by Amor Towles because I loved this book so much. So A Gentleman in Moscow is also one of my favorite books of all time. I really like food writing. If there is like food in a book, my star rating will probably go up like 1 star. So I'm going to go through some books that I specifically love. This is a classic kind of as far as food writing goes, and it's My Life in France by Julia Child. This is her memoir, and just, I love Julia Child. I want to be her when I grow up. And gosh, she's so funny, but she's just done so much, and she's really a game changer for women. So that's one thing too, is I love not only that she like didn't accept no for an answer in her life, but she did things that were so unconventional and outside the norm. And she introduced Americans to like good food. And this book is just her journey with food. Most of it came about in her life through living in France with her husband, Paul. So gosh, I can't. I love this book so freaking much. I want everybody to read it. It's not that long. It's just, she's such a gem to American culture. And okay, so up next is A Homemade Life by Molly Weisenberg. And this is really just kind of, I would almost say it's more a book in essays, but like every chapter follows with a recipe. And this is just a memoir about her life with kitchen at the center. The one thing, I haven't read this in a while, but I really love the relationship with her father. And like he dies like early on in her life. And so it's just kind of her, I think she might have been in her 20s when he died, but she had such a good relationship, close relationship with him. And it's kind of both like an ode to food and how it brings family together, and kind of her reckoning with like her loss and how food is kind of healing too. So I just adored this one. I think it was recommended to me by Books on Her Brain, but this is just a really great memoir with food writing if you are into it. It's not religious or anything. Another one I really love is Bread and Wine by Shauna Niequist, and it kind of deals with grief and food too, but that is a Christian-oriented book, so if faith isn't your thing, I would recommend this instead. Homemade Life, Molly Wiesenberg, 10 out of 10, recommend. The next one that I've really loved, I actually read this last December, is Once Upon a Wardrobe by Patty Callahan, and this is about two siblings and C.S. Lewis. So the older sibling in this novel is going to Oxford, which is where C.S. Lewis lives, and he has written The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe at this point. And the older sister, her little brother, is sick, and he is just obsessed with Narnia, and so he wants her to find C.S. Lewis and ask like all these questions. And it deals both with like grief, so you will cry in this, but it's just so beautiful. And it gives a nice like story on C.S. Lewis's backstory and growing up. But also she is a math student and does not believe in fairy tales and stories and the power of stories. And so this is also like an ode to storytelling and using your imagination and entering a world that is not real. And it really, like, as a reader, it's just exactly what you want to read. I just can't recommend it enough. So that is Patty Callahan, Once Upon a Wardrobe. I'm going to talk about two classics next. One of them is Crossing to Safety by Wallace Stegner. And this is just kind of a great American novel, very quiet, not a lot happens, but it is about a group of friends. I know they go to school up in Wisconsin, so some Midwest love, like at a university. It's been a while since I've read this, but it's basically just a group of friends. It's two couples between Vermont and Wisconsin, and they, like, as they age and their relationship changes, you're just getting more of an introspective look into a relationship, which I love quiet books. And so this is like that book for me. It's just a really beautiful written novel on friendship and love. And it's a really good fall book. So like if you're looking for something cozy, I kind of want to, like, I recommend rereading this in the fall. I freaking adore this book. So definitely recommend Crossing to Safety by Wallace Stegner. Then the other classic, I would be like remiss without screaming from the rooftops. Pride and Prejudice. Like, there's not really a lot to be said. If you're gonna watch any adaptation, watch the Keira Knightley one or the Colin Firth one. They're both like the only two adaptations I really care for. The hand scene in the Keira Knightley one. The Colin Firth one is a mini series, so if you don't want to read Pride and Prejudice, I'd probably say watch that because it's like 6 episodes. It's very like true to this book. So Elizabeth and Darcy basically calls her ugly and is like, ugh, the first time he meets her. And then she's kind of like, you're a jerk. I'm going to call you out on all your crap. I hate you. Family drama happens. They fall in love. It's the true enemy to lovers trope, if that's your thing. And it's such a great novel. So there you go. Pride and Prejudice. From a historical romance perspective, I think I had another one. I don't know where I put it. Oh, okay. I'm going to do 2 historical mass market romances that I adore. And they're ones that I reread every single year. Actually, I can't find it. Okay, just kidding. There's 3 that I reread pretty much every single year. So the first is Dreaming of You by Lisa Kleypas. It didn't necessarily age well, but it involves Derek Craven and Sarah Fielding. Sarah Fielding is an author, and Derek Craven is like, owns a gambling hell. And, there's people that are not considered desirable in gambling hells. So courtesans and drinking and stuff. And she's an author, and her famous character in her book is a courtesan, but she wants to be like more authentic. So she asks Derek to let her into his gambling hell. They fall in love. He's just like, he makes me think of Tom Hardy. Like if I had to cast that, it would be Tom Hardy. But this is just one of my favorite Kleypas, hands down. I read it all, like, honestly, I read it multiple times a year because I love it so much, but there's a scene with her glasses and it's so amazing. I'm going to do a historical romance recommendation video probably here soon, and this will show up again. So this is just one of my favorite historicals. Another one is also by Lisa Kleypas. This is the one I was looking for. It's Marrying Winterbourne. And Winterbourne is like he owns this huge like department store and falls in love with Helen, and it's just a really sweet. I like where men are more blue blood in romance novels and women are more of the aristocracy, and I like seeing them come together. And so that's Marrying Winterbourne, because he's like he's really rich and he has a shop, but like he's not the aristocracy. So there's an issue with that for her and her family, but it's just perfect. And then the other one that I love so much is The Day of the Duchess. Sarah MacLean is probably one of my favorite romance novelists. And The Day of the Duchess has 2 trigger warnings. One is divorce, and then the other one is miscarriage. I think that this book captures some of the emotions of loss really beautifully, and grief. This is just wonderful. So the Duke of Haven and Serafina, they were married, and basically she is done with him. He's a butthead. And so she asks for a divorce, and it's him trying to win her back. And I just think this book handles like the grovel better than any book I've ever read, and it is just so perfectly well done. That's The Day of the Duchess by Sarah MacLean. And then another book that I adore, and I don't think like most people have ever heard of this book, and I only heard about it from a book club I used to be in, but it is Earl's All You Can Eat Diner, and it's by Edward Kelsey Moore. I honestly need to reread this, but it is about a group of friends, Odette, Clarice, and Barbara Jean. They're called the Supremes. And I'm just reading from the back because I think it does a better job of me trying to describe it. They've weathered life storms for over 4 decades and counseled one another through marriage and children, happiness, and the blues. Now they're about to face the most challenging year yet. Clarice is trying to keep up appearances as she deals with her husband's infidelity. Beautiful Barbara Jean is rocked by the tragic reverberations of a youthful love affair, and fearless Odette is about to embark on the most terrifying battle of her life. So it's a novel on friendship and family. One of the characters in this book can see ghosts, and one of the ghosts is Eleanor Roosevelt, and it's hilarious. But such a great book that I just don't think gets a lot of attention. So it's The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat Cafe, and it's not very long. It's hilarious, but also really good. Like, I don't want to compare it to Jocelyn Jackson because I don't think that's a good comparison. Jocelyn Jackson is good at like capturing kind of that Southern literature, that like community vibe. Edward Kelsey Moore is also good at capturing like that community, kind of that feeling, like you feel like you're a part of that community and like that setting. It's really great, you guys. Okay, we'll see if I can get through this last stack. So the next one is The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali, and it is about 2 people who fall in love and in Iran, in Tehran, like right before all the political upheaval, and they meet in a stationery shop in Tehran. They fall in love, and then they're supposed to meet at a square, and it's going to be kind of like they're going to run away together type thing. Well, the square that they meet in is a square where a lot of upheaval comes, and you know, they miss each other due to the upheaval, and then they both live their own lives. And it kind of is like you go between past and present as these 2 people grapple with their relationship and like the love of their life, losing it, and how they come back together is just really beautiful. I adored this book. So it also is like one of the most gorgeous covers. I don't know if you can see like the gold emboss, but it's not, I think I read this in like maybe 1 or 2 sittings. It's not a super long book, and it also taught me about something I didn't know much about. So the Iranian Revolution in Tehran and kind of that political climate. So if you know me at all, I love politics too. So anything like that will be like right up my alley. Stationery Shop, definitely recommend. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Louise Penny. I need to take my stupid book sticker off. This is a series. You need to read them in order. It follows Inspector Gamache. Most of the book takes place in this town called Three Pines, which is fictional. It's in Canada, right off the border of Vermont. She's just such a master of her craft. I will say the series starts out slow, so give it like 3 or 4 books for it to really take off, and then you really start falling in love with the characters. I know that's asking a lot for some people, but I really do believe if you give it a few books, you'll really get sucked in. And then the later mysteries are just so great. Like this one, I think is probably the weakest mystery for me in Still Life. It's about like painting and stuff, but so much of what is in here really matters down the line and gets you like a better sense of who the characters are. So definitely recommend that. Okay, so I had to briefly pause in filming because I had a work meeting that coincided with my lunch break and I wanted to attend it. So, all right, let's finish up these remaining books that are just all-time favorites. So, The Hobbit by J.R. Tolkien is, I just have the fondest memories of reading this as a child. And then just like, sometimes it's like a comfort read for me. And so I'm really excited. I have a son who's 2 and I cannot wait to read this with him in the next few years and just get lost in the Shire and Tom Bombadil and just like all these great characters that I love so much. So The Hobbit is definitely up there. The Lord of the Rings too, but The Hobbit is like just so near and dear to my heart. And then from a faith perspective, I read Abilene of Faith last year by Kat Armas, and this is written from a woman of color, and it really looks at faith, at Christianity from the lens of the oppressed and the marginalized, and specifically women, and how we can look to like our mothers, guidance, our mothers and our ancestors is like guidance of our faith, and like for being persistent like drumbeats in keeping faith alive for their families. It talks about like generational trauma and like how a lot of the Bible has oppressed people in it and like how you can see God from that. And just so much about this book just completely like shattered a lot of my viewpoints being raised as a Catholic and then now a Protestant white person in the United States. So just a beautiful book like on just faith in general, but then how we need to consider the marginalized and the other. And it's such a great novel. It is such a great book if you're deconstructing in any way, shape, or form. It's just the perspectives in this book have totally changed my faith. And so I'm so grateful for Kat Armas. She's a great person to follow on social media too. But I definitely recommend this book. It's not super long, but there are a lot of words. There's a lot of words, but it is so good and just has really changed who I am as a believer. And like, I just think it's a really beautiful book. So if you are Christian, if you're deconstructing, trying to be like, what the heck, like has white Christianity done to the world? This is a good one because we've got a lot of flaws and we need to start listening to other people. So I'm going to be doing, I think, an episode, a YouTube vlog, I think, on some of my favorite like books that are deconstruction related. Some fictional ones, just some books about faith, because it is something that I really love to read about as I work through my own faith as an adult. So again, Abilene of Faith, Kat Armas, it's fantastic. And then finally, East of Eden by John Steinbeck. If you think classics are really boring and hard to read, I would suggest you start with this. It reads so just, it's unputdownable. And it's about a family that is based in the Salinas Valley in California. The Trasks and the Hamiltons are these two families, and their generations helplessly reenact the fall of Adam and Eve and the poisonous rivalry of Cain and Abel. So it's kind of a retelling of those stories, but in a way, like, this is Steinbeck's best novel by far. It has the best villain. Her name is Kathy, and she will just like stay with you forever. She is a terrible person, but this is just a fantastic book. I had one of my book clubs read it and they all loved it, and I don't think it gets enough love. But East of Eden by John Steinbeck is a classic that I think everybody should read. So that's all. I'm sure there's like a million other books that I love. Like, would like to say that these are my top. I'm sure there's other books that I love that I didn't mention because I'm a bookworm and I read a lot of books. Like, how could there not be? But I hope that gives you a good sense on like the type of reading that I like and the books that I love. And maybe you're a book twin, maybe you've read some of them and have different opinions than me. I would love to hear anything you have to say in regards to this video in the comments. I hope that this was great, and I really appreciate you for hanging out with me as I go through some of my favorite books. I would love to know what some of your favorite books are in the comments as well. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day, you guys.